Welcome to our Elul liturgical reflections. During the month of Elul, 3 times a week, we're going to be sharing a reflection on a piece of liturgy that was written by our members in the last few years. We started engaging in this process of writing liturgy back in 2020, when we realized that we weren't going to be able to be together in person for the High Holy Days for the first time ever in our community. And we wanted members to be able to contribute to the services so that they could still really feel connected. So over Shabbat mornings, really about a month, 2 months before the High Holy Days, I started teaching about Tichines and about Piyutim, how to write liturgy. And then our members got on with writing some extraordinary pieces of liturgy. And so during the month of Elul, 3 times a week, including in my pre-Shabbat message, I'm going to be blowing the shofar, and I'm going to be sharing a thought from a member who wrote. I'll share their piece of liturgy, I'll share their thoughts, and I'll add a quick commentary myself. So our first piece of liturgy is called Voices by Scott Nadler. This is from 2020. The voices of Babel clash and confound. May I step away from their discord. The voices of certainty suppress question and thought. May I resist their weight. The still, small voice speaks to me. May I listen for it and to it. The voices of the choir lift my spirit in prayer. May I hear their harmony. The voices of the congregation rise with me in my mourning. May I embrace them and be embraced by them. Adonai, open my ears, that my heart may truly hear your wisdom. Scott writes, confusion reigned when I wrote this in 2020. Like everyone else, I was confused by the competing COVID voices. We tried to ignore the nonsense and follow the science, but the science was evolving, which meant changing the direction we were supposed to take. We were just emerging from wiping down our groceries and leaving them out overnight. Social distancing was weighing on us all. We had lost the in-person contact we valued and were facing the gut-wrenching disappointment of moving the High Holy Day services entirely online. Some of us were still figuring out what or where online was. He writes, I faced personal confusion and loss as well that grim autumn. In the preceding 5 years, I'd lost my mother, father, oldest brother, and a close friend. Our then 38-year-old daughter had moved in with us, a disgruntled urbanite taking COVID refuge with aging parents in our small town. Her time with us would turn out to be an amazing opportunity and blessing for us all, but I didn't know that yet. Writing this prayer, I was just looking for something to hang on to. Revisiting the prayer now, there is nothing I would change, but I read it with a different tone. 3 years later, we have all learned to live with a level of uncertainty. More importantly, those voices I needed have been there for me. What was an anguished search for the voices I needed has become a quiet reminder of the voices that were there for me and still are. As with all of our pieces of liturgy that were used in our services, I'm a very big fan of this piece. Firstly, it contains 3 biblical quotations. The voices of Babel clash and confound. That's from Genesis chapter 11:9. The still small voice speaks to me. That's from 1 Kings 19:12. And right at the end, my heart may truly hear your wisdom. That's Psalm 51:17. I love the structure of this piece. The voices of Babel clash and confound. May I step away from their discord. It works in a 3-line pattern. Similarly, the voices of certainty suppress question and thought. May I resist their weight. To me, there's something very biblical poetry about this. In biblical poetry, things don't rhyme as we understand rhyme. So confound and profound, for example. In biblical poetry, things rhyme by repeating the thing that was said before but slightly changing it. And so this really uses the form of biblical poetry. The voices of Babel clash and confound. May I step away from their discord. The voices of certainty suppress question and thought. May I resist their weight. There's a really academic structure to this. But constantly all the way through, each 3 lines ends with may I. This is a prayer about personal change. Not change of the community, but personal change. May I step away from the voices of discord. May I resist the weight of voices of certainty that suppress question and thought. May I listen for and to the still small voice. May I hear the harmony of the choir. May I embrace the voices of the congregation. And then for me, there's a really challenging moment right at the end. Adonai, open my ears that my heart may truly hear your wisdom. And that challenges me because it seems to play off, and I suppose it was probably deliberately written this way. Instead of just before tefillah, Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha, God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Instead of God, open my lips, or Adonai, open my lips, so that I may speak, this is about listening. And so this is Adonai, open my ears. And that's actually really interesting, because when we open our lips, it's because our mouth was literally closed. But our ears remain open all the time. So what does it mean to open my ears that my heart may truly hear your wisdom? For me, the way I read this passage, this is about hearing and also listening to. We can hear something, but not necessarily listen to it. Or there's so many noises, so many voices, that it's impossible to hear the one really important thing that we need to listen to. So for me, I start with this, particularly in this month of Elul, because it touches on the theme of the sermons for the High Holy Days this year. Fear or doubt, the fear of moving forward. This was where we really were in 2020. The fear of the other. If somebody comes close to me, will I catch a potentially fatal virus? This fear that is here, but is not a pure expression of fear, but what to do with it and how we move through it. And what do we need to listen to at this time? I'll read it one more final time after this commentary. Voices by Scott Nadler. The voices of Babel clash and confound. May I step away from their discord. The voices of certainty suppress question and thought. May I resist their weight. The still small voice speaks to me. May I listen for it and to it. The voices of the choir lift my spirit in prayer. May I hear their harmony. The voices of the congregation rise with me in my mourning. May I embrace them and be embraced by them. Adonai, open my ears, that my heart may truly hear your wisdom. We open our ears to the shofar, the blessing, Lishmoa kol shofar, thanking God who commands us to hear the sound of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. I wish you a wonderful month of Elul, a wonderful week and a wonderful day. And our liturgical reflections will return this Friday in my pre-Shabbat message. Have a wonderful day.